Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, it's a feature story edition of our show. Even non-farmers are familiar with Roundup herbicide. Unfortunately, many weeds have grown resistant to this favorite. If you don't have resistant weeds now, you will. Many farmers are returning to old strategies to control them.
We have two Southern gardening segments for you today. The Southern Indica Azalea continues to be a favorite of Southern gardeners. Looking for a ground cover that's colorful yet unconventional? The ornamental sweet potato is a great one to try.
Our first feature story today is about a logger that people want to come to their land. Kevin Harrison and Harrison Logging keep landowners and their employees happy. They haven't had a lost time accident since they started 27 years ago.
You got to know where everything's going to be set up, where the road's going to be built, where the land is going to be built. We've got a program, my timber buyer, before we ever move on a job, that we got a topo map, aerial photograph. We to get with the landowner, see where he wants the roads.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week. Today it's a feature story edition of our show.
Artis, our first story today is about a company where safety first is not just a motto, it's the way the employees live. Harrison Logging is the Mississippi Forestry Association's present Outstanding Logger of the Year. The company has not had a lost time accident in 27 years, but there are other reasons why they are outstanding as well. Farm Week caught up with the Harrisons last September while they were on a job near Oxford. This is one of the 4 harvesting crews operated by Harrison Logging of Grenada, Mississippi. This crew is managed by Kevin Harrison in the center. His father, Carl Harrison, on the right manages a second crew. Kevin's brother, Darren, on the left manages a third crew. And cousin Paul Harrison manages the fourth crew. Altogether, there are 27 employees. Darren Harrison says things were much different back when he joined the operation in 1992.
We had a bale cutter and a cable. It was all cable and chainsaw work then. We don't even own a chainsaw anymore. It's a big difference what it was then and is now.
Today, Harrison Logging operates a fleet of equipment that includes 7 skidders, 5 feller bunchers, 6 knuckle boom loaders, and 4 crew and service trucks. For each of the 4 harvesting crews, safety is always the top priority.
You cannot have enough safety. I mean, everybody out here, you know, you spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day with somebody, you know, you become like family. But there's no amount of money, you know, in the world that can bring somebody back if something happens.
Harrison Logging has never had a lost time accident since the business was started in 1984. Their perfect safety record can be attributed to ongoing training from the Mississippi Loggers Association, the Mississippi State University Extension Service, and other groups. Members of the Mississippi Forestry Association Timber Harvest Committee say the company's outstanding safety record, along with its use of best management practices or BMPs on timberland, are 2 reasons why Kevin Harrison was chosen the Outstanding Logger of the Year.
Probably one of the greatest attributes that we saw that was their flawless safety record. Been in the business for 27 years without a recordable accident. Not only that, but to talk about the BMP work that they do, and they hire a separate BMP contractor to do all their BMP work. You know, it's always, you know, a lot cheaper for them to do it themselves, but they figured out, well, you know, we can hire somebody to do it, somebody that specializes in it and does a good job of it.
And most loggers know when you get ready to move, you're in a hurry to move, and you won't do the BMP work like a contractor will. I mean, I want to make sure all my clients are satisfied, and repeat business is where we get 90 to 95% of our work from.
This job at Goose Valley Ranch in Oxford, Mississippi is a good example of that repeat business. Harrison Logging is doing a second thinning on a tract of timber owned by Joe Huggins and his wife, Linda.
We feel like he just does an exceptional job. He takes care of the property. We have areas that we call signature spots, and he pays particular attention to them and does a fine job doing them however we want them to be. If we want to leave stuff, he works around it and just does a great job working with the landowner and taking the time and effort to really do a fine job.
Besides knowing the landowner's expectations before moving any equipment onto a job, Kevin Harrison develops a specific site management plan for his employees to follow while working there. This plan incorporates the principles of the Sustainable Forestry Initiative, as well as best management practices.
You got to know where everything's going to be set up, where the road's going to be built, where the land is going to be built. We've got a program, my timber buyer, before we ever move on a job, that we got a topo map, aerial photograph. We to get with the landowner, see where he wants the roads, and you need to know 2 days ahead of time before you ever move on a site. You got to have your plan laid out before you ever move on that job, know what you're gonna do. If you lose a day's downtime, you done lost several $1,000s if you waiting to try to figure out where you going, where you gonna move to.
Harrison Logging's concern for the environment is seen in all of their management practices. For example, landings are leveled by hauling tops and debris back into the woods with skidders. It is scattered over skid trails to minimize compaction of the soil. Fine debris that won't hold in the grapple is left on the landing to prevent soil exposure. Water bars and turnouts are installed on the roads after completion of a job. 2007 marked a turning point in the history of Harrison Logging. Before then, almost all of their timber was contracted with Weyerhaeuser and Georgia Pacific. Only 15% was purchased directly from landowners. But market changes in 2007 provided the company the opportunity to expand by purchasing more privately owned timber. This eventually led to the hiring of a full-time procurement forester by Harrison Logging.
The role that I play with Harrison Logging is strictly a procurement role. To be sure that the company maintains an inventory, a forest inventory that's large enough to keep all the Harrison crews running with wood. My responsibility covers pretty much everything from contacting any prospective seller of timber to the contracts that are involved in procuring timber or any county haul permits as necessary.
The wood from the thinning operation in Oxford is going 2 different directions. The chip-n saw is being taken south about 30 miles to Weyerhaeuser in Bruce. The pine pulpwood is being hauled 124 miles northeast to the PCA containerboard mill in Counce, Tennessee. Carl Harrison, who started this logging business in 1984, says the distance wood has to be hauled now has increased dramatically from the 1980s.
Well, back then it was more mills and closer haul. If you hauled over 30 miles in, you was on a long haul. Now it's very common to haul wood 100 miles or better because of mill, there's not as many mills now.
Throughout its history, Harrison Logging has been an active member of the Grenada County Forestry Association. In May of 2011, they sponsored a CFA meeting on the economic impact of forestry. In other recent community involvement, they sponsored a logger education program last year in the county. This included providing a log truck to MDOT for a day for use in demonstrations to other loggers. With a flawless safety record, dedication to the use of best management practices, and a commitment to the industry, Harrison Logging is an undisputed leader in North Mississippi. From Oxford, Mississippi, I'm Leighton Spann reporting. You can watch this story on Kevin Harrison and his family again on our Farm Week website, our Facebook page, or on YouTube. The website address is farmweek.msucares.com. Find us on Facebook and give us a click on the like button if you feel so inclined. And a quick update here. On March 21st, the Harrison Logging Crew was named the South Central Regional Logger of the Year by the Forest Resources Association at their meeting in Natchitoches, Louisiana. So another honor for them. They're still quite busy, still running 4 crews. Now they've even expanded. They've hired an additional timber buyer and also another subcontractor. So things going very well, according to Kevin Harrison.
Sounds like when times get tough, the tough get working.
That's right.
Congratulations on their award. And of course now I guess they'll go for the national award. Very good. Well, it is time now for today's trivia quiz on Farm Week, and it's about wheat yields in Mississippi. Do you have an idea about what they are? What is the all-time record for the state average wheat yield in Mississippi? Is it 51 bushels, 55 bushels, 64 bushels, or 74 bushels? We'll have the answer right after today's Southern Gardening segments.
Today on Farm Week, we have not one but 2 Southern Gardening segments for you. What is one of the most glamorous plants in the springtime southern landscape? In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us why the Southern Indica Azalea is sure to draw attention.
If there's a single shrub that could be called a staple in the southern landscape, it is the azalea. The spectacular flowering has made azaleas one of the all-time most popular landscape shrubs. It's early spring in South Mississippi and the azaleas are putting on a show. One of the earliest blooming varieties is the Southern Indica Azalea. Whether used as specimen plants, hedges, or backgrounds, Southern Indica Azalea has to be my favorite azalea. The blooms are huge, resembling rhododendrons, and are created in great quantities. The flowers are funnel-formed with narrow bases and bell-shaped edges. The flower colors are pinks, purples, and reds, and includes white. Many have speckles in the flower throats. Southern Indica Azalea has the potential to be a big plant. Pruning can keep them smaller with denser growth. Always prune after flowering, but before July 4th. The flower buds for next year are formed early in the summer. Azalea lacebug is a common insect pest and causes leaf speckling. These are sucking insects that live on the underside of the leaf and leave telltale spots of black frass. Azaleas have a shallow and fragile root system that can be damaged from excessive raking. Using organic mulch like these oak leaves is the best method to keep landscape weeds under control. You can expect Southern Indica Azaleas to bloom in early March down on the coast to early April in North Mississippi. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Well, we know you're considering what you want to plant this spring. If you're looking for a great ground cover, try the ornamental sweet potato. It comes in different colors and textures.
Did you know a relative of the morning glory makes a ground cover with beautiful, colorful foliage? Here, selections of ornamental sweet potato are being evaluated for use in our Mississippi landscapes. Ornamental sweet potatoes, known botanically as a Pomoea batatas, are actually real sweet potatoes that breeders are selecting for vivid and attractive leaves. Ornamental sweet potatoes are vigorous growing plants that produce thick mats of color. The Sweet Caroline series offers a wide selection of heart-shaped and cut-leaf foliage in a variety of colors for the landscape. Foliage colors include light green, purple, red, and bronze. Sweet Caroline selections Raven and Bewitched have dramatic black foliage. The Illusion series has lacy textured leaves featuring deeply cut lobes that resemble fingers. Colors available in the Illusion series include garnet lace, emerald lace, and midnight lace. The flowering of ornamental sweet potato is considered inconspicuous, but can provide an unexpected treat. Since ornamental sweet potatoes can be vigorous, they may become unruly and run over other plants. Simply prune back to keep them in bounds. Ornamental sweet potatoes perform best with consistent moisture. Be sure to water during dry periods to help maintain good plant health. And while these plants may look their best in the fall, ornamental sweet potatoes are annuals in Mississippi. Ornamental sweet potatoes add annual color in every landscape they're planted, so why not enjoy them in yours? I'm Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
As Gary said, the ornamental sweet potato is not perennial, but if you plant it each year, its appearance is worth it. Well, it's time now for the answer to today's trivia quiz on Farm Week, and it concerns the all-time record state average wheat yield in Mississippi. Well, the answer, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, is 64 bushels per acre, and that was harvested last year. The lowest on record, 4 bushels per acre in 1890. We're going to pause now for a break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll have the calendar and one more feature story for you. Roundup Ready used to be a welcome phrase, but now some weeds are becoming resistant to the once popular herbicide.
Committed? Absolutely. People rely on me. I don't take that lightly. Sure, sometimes we get out of sync and things feel forced. That's when the commitment kicks in. You buckle down, hammer it out, and keep it together for everybody involved. So, yeah, I'm completely committed to my marriage. Till death do us part. Commit to your marriage.
Before we get back to the last story, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. Can I Still Make Money Growing Trees is a Mississippi State University Extension Service forestry workshop and will be held on 2 dates. The hours are 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. You'll learn about the timber market outlook and where to find government cost share assistance. Tuesday, April 17th, the location is the Senior Citizen Building on Highway 98 at Loosedale. And then Thursday, June 28th, the workshop moves to the East Mississippi Power Association office on Highway 49 North at Meridian. Mississippi State University will hold 2 beef cattle boot camps in April. Among other things, you'll learn about developing heifers and bulk purchasing of inputs. The first boot camp is Friday, April 13th at MSU's South Farm in Starkville. A week later, the beef cattle boot camp moves to the MSU White Sands unit. That's at Poplarville. Once again, the hours are 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
Our last feature story today first aired about a month ago on Farm Week. You might have missed it though because our March schedule was a little hectic on Mississippi Public Television. We decided to air it again. It's about glyphosate-resistant weeds. This herbicide was first sold under the brand name Roundup. Farmers used it far and wide, but now it's losing its punch, forcing farmers to return to old, more management-intensive weed control strategies. Market to Market's David Miller explains.
For centuries, farmers have waged war on weeds. They have tried everything from pulling them out by hand, to cultivating, to spraying, to the direct application of fire. Always looking for ways to reduce weed pressure, seed companies genetically engineered products to be resistant to glyphosate herbicide, which Monsanto markets as Roundup. When approved for general use in 1994, a few scientists were concerned that overuse of the popular weed killer could lead to plants becoming resistant to the herbicide. But it appears it was only a matter of time. The first weeds resistant to the herbicide Roundup were discovered in 1996. Since then, 24 states have reported the problem, with the greatest difficulty being seen in those producing cotton. And while not as prevalent, some Midwestern farmers also are finding Roundup-resistant weeds in their corn and soybean fields.
I think of it kind of like baseball. You can't go out there and throw the same pitch every time and expect to win. Weeds are very adaptable. If you throw the same thing at them over and over, they will eventually overcome it.
Over the past 15 years, scientists have identified more than 20 plants with resistance to glyphosate herbicides, including Palmer amaranth, more commonly known as pigweed, water hemp, giant ragweed, kochia, and mare's tail. Larry Steckel, a University of Tennessee Knoxville extension weed specialist, believes the days of weed control being handled by making a few spray passes over emerging herbicide-tolerant plants are gone.
I tell our growers, a lot of meetings, I say, you can always think back on 2003 as being the good old days when it comes to weed control, because it's never going to be that simple or easy again.
Steckel believes growers need to go back to weed control methods used prior to 2003, and he's calling for a resurgence of both hand and machine cultivation, an increase in crop rotation, the planting of cover crops, and the use of herbicides previously set aside for the advantages of glyphosate.
Now, everybody moved into the Roundup technology in the mid-90s, and that didn't happen in a vacuum. A lot of these farmers got very big. They farmed a lot more acres than they did in the 80s. And you could do that when Roundup controlled weeds at any size with one of these big sprayers, you know. Once you have to go back to these herbicides and rely almost exclusively on those that we were using back in the 80s, we just don't have as many sprayers, as much labor, and as much time as we need to get things sprayed as timely as back when we were using the same herbicides in the 80s.
Pioneer Hybrid, a national underwriter of Market to Market, and Monsanto, a biotechnology giant in its own right, are two of the top purveyors of Roundup-ready products in the United States. Representatives from both companies recommend essentially the same protocols for problem weeds. They tell farmers to be diligent when scouting fields, be prepared to use multiple modes of action to eliminate the problem, and always apply herbicides as directed on the product's label. Additionally, Pioneer officials recommend consulting with their seed sales professionals and agronomists, as well as taking advantage of Pioneer's online library for assistance.
Preventing the spread of seeds from resistant plants is very important too. Tillage equipment and combines especially are exceptionally capable of taking weed seed from one field and spreading it in another. So that might mean harvesting a field with resistant weeds last, or possibly cleaning machinery before moving between fields.
Monsanto offers similar services and has added a monetary rebate program that encourages farmers to use a broader spectrum of chemicals to combat weeds. The incentives range from $10 per acre for soybeans to $22 per acre for cotton.
It's multiple modes of action. It's using 2 or 3 herbicides that have overlapping effects on the weeds, so that you don't get into a situation where you only have one herbicide and you're starting to select for the resistance. What we do as part of our Roundup Ready Plus platform is go to academics, go to third parties, ask them what the best recommendations are, what products would they use for these key weeds, and then we put them into our program and we make the recommendation also, and in fact incentivize growers with funds to buy those other products.
The program is unique in the marketplace and offers rebates on a myriad of chemicals made by a laundry list of manufacturers. Both Pioneer and Monsanto recommend the use of residual herbicides that are applied before planting or before the plants emerge from the soil. Depending on the crop, products containing dicamba, atrazine, and 2,4-D are being recommended to handle glyphosate-resistant weeds. Implement manufacturers also are adapting their products. Wilmer, Minnesota-based Wilmer Fabrication, for example, makes a spray hood designed to decrease herbicide drift and increase direct application to problem weeds. And waiting in the wings are the next lines of herbicide-tolerant crops with resistance to chemicals already in the farmer's weed arsenal. Despite the encouraging news, these new seeds are still a few years away from commercialization. For now, farmers will need to be diligent about watching and waiting to see if herbicide-resistant weeds creep into their fields. For Market to Market, I'm David Miller.
If you're interested in watching this story again on herbicide-resistant weeds, you can go to our Farm Week website, farmweek.msucares.com. You can also find us on Facebook and YouTube. And we'll also have links to the Market to Market website where you can see the story as well and read the script. Again, our website, farmweek.msucares.com.
Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, 4-H shooting sports.
Putting guns and bows in the hands of young people would draw gasp in some parts of the country. The program actually teaches responsibility, safety, and self-confidence. It also pries those smartphones out of their hands, at least for a few minutes.
In southern gardening, the Indian hawthorn. It's a tough shrub that's evergreen and it produces flowers as well. If you'd like further information on Farm Week story or you want to suggest a story to us, get in touch. Snail mail, Farm Week, Box 9625, Mississippi State, Mississippi 39762. That's Box 9625, Mississippi State, Mississippi 39762. Telephone number 662-325-2262. You can also contact us through your Mississippi State University Extension Service County Office. For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.